Welcome back to the channel, Revheads. David here. Today we're going to talk about the review of the 2015 Roush Stage 3 Mustang. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the way the car was built at factory when I purchased it back in December 2015. And then I'm also going to give you the updates on what she's running now. So give you a little comparison, if you will, in the moment of OEM Roush versus what I've done to it later in its life. So let's get into it. So I guess as good a place as any to start would be with the exterior of the car, and then we'll leave the interior and all the performance aspects to wrap it up so we end on a positive note, because I know most everybody that's probably watching this is wondering, you know, what's the horsepower rating, what's the torque rating, what are the details, the beans and the bullets, if you will, damn gnats, of the Roush Stage 3 Mustang. So I'm going to leave that to the end, so that way it gives you a little bit of a cliffhanger, something to you know, suspend your anticipation for a little bit, and we'll get into the exterior of the car. So what Roush does when they put together their Mustang packages, back in 2015, they had a plethora of packages. So they had everything from what they call a Roush RS. The Roush RS was the V6 with a turbo to it. I want to say the horsepower rating was somewhere in the low 300s. And if you guys want those exact numbers, then just place that in the comments and I can get that numbers for you. But I don't have the exact horsepower and torque ratings for all the lower levels. I do, however, have it for, you know, Rhonda, who's sitting here beside me. So again, 2015 to 2017, we had a couple of different levels. Roush RS was the first one, okay? That was your V6 with basically a few minor upgrades. They upgraded the interior, they put the Roush body kit to it, they upgraded the hood, they upgraded the exhaust, they upgraded the wheels, they put Roush rims to it, so it wasn't just the tire package. And then they did the Roush decals, so the Roush vinyl at the time. From there you went into the Stage 1. If this bug does not leave me alone, I swear to God. From there, we went into the Roush Stage 1. The Roush Stage 1 was actually the EcoBoost Mustang with a turbocharger to it. Again, spitting out a little over 300 horsepower, and was very similar in that sense to the Roush RS as far as the amenities that Roush put into that car. If you graduated from the RS1 to the RS2, aka the Stage 2, then you got a little bit more. The Stage 2 brought with it your standard naturally aspirated V8 Coyote motor, and in 15 to 17 that was your Gen 2 Coyote motor, so your 5-liter V8. You got the body kit, same as the RS1 and the RS Mustang before it. The differences came into the vinyl on the outside of the car, so the vinyl package is a little bit different from the RS2 to the RS1 down to the RS, so that way you have ways of differentiating those three different levels of Mustang at the time. Otherwise, you got the same wheel setup, same exhaust setup, very similar interiors. And then usually what you'd find is the shift ball would complement the vinyl package that was on the exterior of the car. So for example, if you had a red primary door stripe or a red stripe that went down the door for the RS2 package, because you'd have something that would start here and kind of go the length of the door versus the hockey puck, or the hockey stick, excuse me, on the Stage 3s, then if that was red, for example, then your shift ball would be red. If it was white, your shift ball would be white. And to my knowledge, Roush only had 3 colors of shift balls at the time, and probably still only does. And it was black, white, or red. So those were your complement colors as far as the shift knob were concerned. And then you get up into the big bad boy, right? The Stage 3, which is the epitome of the Roush Mustang line. In some of the other years, like 2018, for example, we didn't have a Stage 3 Mustang that was available from Roush. What they had was the Jackhammer Mustang, and so we can get into that if you want to in another video, but I'm not going to get into that in detail in this particular video. And then in 2019 to 2022, they brought back the Stage 3s, and then in 2023, we had the Roush Track Pack Mustang. So, but getting back to the 2015 here, what you're going to see different on the 2015 Stage 3 versus the other Mustangs that Roush offered, or even just your generic Mustangs from Ford, if you were to buy it straight off the lot, is obviously you're going to have a hood with a, and this is not the factory hood that came on the car in 2015. Okay, I upgraded this hood back in 2020. So she is now running the Cervini's dual ram hood, and it is a functional hood versus the original hood that Roush put on the car, which is really just the OEM hood from Ford with an aftermarket hood scoop that Roush attaches to the hood itself, and it is a non-functional hood scoop. I'll put a picture in this video up in the corner of the screen over there so that you guys can go ahead and see what the car looked like with its original hood. But aftermarket hood, you'll notice around the bottom of the car you can see the splitter. So if we look down here, then you can see the splitter that Roush puts on the Stage 3s, as well as, and again, the front end here is going to be similar across all the Roush Mustang models. So this front fascia is completely redesigned for all the Roush Mustangs from 2015 to 2017. In 2018, it changed, but you can see these air inducts here, which actually help to push the air into the brakes to help keep those cool. You see the billet grill, and the lower grill, as you can see, is closed in. I've done that. That's aftermarket. That was not done by Roush, but I also did that to help kind of protect the car too, so we didn't get debris up into the car and cause additional problems that I didn't want to deal with. One of the things you'll see is the custom Stage 3 badging. Again, that's different across all of the Roush Mustangs, whether you got the RS, the Stage 1, the Stage 2, so on and so forth. And each one of them will come with a little accent color. So you'll see there the red on the Stage 3. On the Stage 2s, it was blue. On the Stage 1s, I believe it was gray, if I'm not mistaken. And then the RSs, I don't remember what the color were. That one might have been a red as well, but I'm not for sure on that one. So moving around to the side of the car, you'll see the side skirts. Those are factory across all the Roush Mustangs, again, from 2015 to 2017, which just help with air direction and wind flow. The wheel setup across all of the Mustangs from 2015 to 2017 were a block setup. So at the time that I purchased this car, Roush was running on the car the Cooper RS3 tires, and those were 275, 35, 20s. And what you see on the car now is a staggered setup. So she's running 285, 30, 20s up front, and then she's running 315s in the rear. I've done that for a couple of reasons. Really, it's only two reasons. The biggest reason is I like the more aggressive setup. Okay, I had a discussion with Jack Jr. years ago in reference to, why Roush doesn't stagger the setup, but for example, Shelby does. And then I got a very detailed response which delved into the R&D that Roush Performance puts into these Stage 3s and the amount of testing time that they do on the tracks and everything else to get these cars ready so that they can perform to the level that Roush tells you these cars are capable of doing, should your driving experience be able to, match that of the potential of the car. So, needless to say, he didn't agree with the fact that I staggered the setup, but she is now running a staggered setup. So originally, car comes with block setup, 275s all the way around the car. And they come on a very lightweight, kind of a carbon gray colored rim. Now, in 2015 to 2017, you also had another option as far as the rims came on the car. You could have gotten that aluminum chrome type look to it. So what I would call the appearance package, again, that's not probably the correct terminology. I'd have to go back and check the Roush Performance homepage to get you what the exact terminology was called from 2015, 2017. But there were two packages of the Stage 3 offered. Horsepower ratings and all that fun stuff is the exact same. The biggest difference was really you got a couple of interior modifications that were different, i.e. the seats. So you could have the Recaros versus the regular seats that came in the Mustang. Or you could get the blacked out charcoal type gray looking rims that I was telling you that Ronda came with, or you get those chrome looking ones, the shiny ones that are hard to keep clean. And it was a different spoke design. So you had the 5-spoke on the shiny rims, and it was a split spoke, which ended up looking like 10, but you know, whatever. It's a lot more to clean, a lot more areas to get your hand into if you go with the track pack rims. So, well, let's get back to the car. You can see there on the front fender, and we covered this in another video, but the installation of the fender heat extractors, those are not factory on the 2015 to 2017 Stage 3s, and didn't become factory on the Roush Stage 3s or the equivalent up until 2020 when they started being installed. The badging on the side of the car there is not the original badging from 2015 to 2017. That badge is inspired by the 2020 Stage 3. As is the angle and the size of the puck, which is the vinyl stripe on the door there. So originally, the stripe that came on the door was the hockey stick, so it went the entire length of the door all the way down to about that point. The main stripe was white and the accent was red, so I've kind of flipped those colors up. You can see the factory here on the outside of the Stage 3, and I believe it was that way on the Stage 2s as well, but I'm not for certain as far as the Stage 1 and the RS Mustangs, if the window louver and the side louver here's were installed on those Mustangs. But on the Stage 3s, those were factory. They are non-functional, so you can see when we get up close to them, they are really just for appearance, but they do add a nice little bit of extra to the car, if you will. Moving around to the back, we have the Roush Axleback exhaust, and that is factory across all the Mustangs from that time period, the 2015-2017. The difference with the Stage 2s and the Stage 3s was you got the active exhaust that came with it. So initially the car had active exhaust, but because this particular car carries with it what they loosely refer to as the track pack, I lost the active exhaust, which I was completely okay with. I chose the track pack for a reason. And then you can see the Roush lettering on the deck lid there. Again, standard across all the Roush Mustangs, even all the way up through 2023. So, and then obviously the other side of the car is no different. So let's go ahead and get into the internal components. Before I get there though, I will say that on the inside of the trunk lid though, Roush does install a tool kit. At least they did from 2015 to 2017. I'm pretty certain they did it all the way up through 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But if I'm wrong, go ahead and drop that down in the comments below. And while we're talking about the comments, if you guys would do me a huge favor and go ahead and smash the like button. And if you're not already subscribed to the page, go ahead and hit that subscription and a little bell notification for all future videos, because we're going to be doing some more fun stuff, you know, down the road in the future and whatnot. And it's not just going to be reviews of the car or other cars, but that's the fancy little toolkit. And then I'll show you, and they do a pretty good job of outfitting it. Gloves and basic stuff that you might need if you find yourself broken down on the side of the road. So that brings us to the power plant behind the Roush Stage 3 Mustang, which, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing better out there. I mean, Shelby has a really good package themselves, but when it comes to what you get underneath the hood of a Mustang, Roush has got to be number one. And I'm not saying that as an employee of Roush or someone who's endorsed by Roush. I'm just saying that as a Mustang enthusiast who's owned a couple of different Mustangs in my lifetime. This is probably one of the biggest, baddest engines that I've seen across the platforms, especially for this particular time frame of car from 2015 to 2017, because then in 2018 Roush gave it a slight bump up, so it came with slightly more horsepower in 2018. It was 720 at the front end, whereas right now we're getting ready to get into the details of this particular one. So here you can see the Gen 2 Coyote 5-liter motor from Ford. And then on top of it, you see that 2300 TVS Roush supercharger with the fancy little Roush plaque on top of it. You see the cold air intake Obviously, you're going to see the engine placard, which will have also the technician's name responsible for doing the work on the engine. Serial number placard. So she is number 267 in 2015 from the Stage 3 line. I want to say there was 300 of them total in 2015, but again, not completely certain on that. So if I'm wrong, go ahead and post that down in the comments, because I'd be curious to know if there was more than that built. But some of the differences that Roush does when they're building the motor or rebuilding the motor or upgrading, depending on how you want to phrase that, in the Roush Stage 3 line is, you're going to get some things. So you're going to get some internals that are going to be changed. And all of that is to make do for the performance that the supercharger is going to bring with it. So you get better cooling. And one thing I've done since purchasing the car is I have upgraded the intercooler in this car. I've also upgraded the drive shaft in the car. It came with a 2-piece. It now has a 1-piece. We've retuned the car, so the car now has the Phase 2 upgrade to it. So originally at factory, she was pushing 670 horsepower, according to the window sticker. And I think Roush does a very good job of kind of rating that on the low end. And that may or may not be done for, reasons to make the car legal across all 50 states. But I would say it's definitely a conservative rating, because when they dynoed the car for me upon the day that I purchased it, she dynoed up at 693. So slightly more than the 670 that it was initially advertised at. And then it's 575 foot-pounds of torque. So a decent little bit of numbers there as far as that goes. And now she's running north of 750 on the horsepower rating. So she's doing a pretty darn good job as far as, power output. She's got forged internals. It's an all-around, it's a great car. And then if you look, again, another signature from Jack Roush Sr. there, which just kind of helps to top off the car altogether. Moving to the interior of the car, there's not a whole lot that has been done differently, other than you can see some customized badges. If you look over here, down on the start-stop button, I've customized that, the center cap to the steering wheel. The dash plaque have all been customized by Badge Kings. Otherwise, everything there is completely OEM from Roush and or Ford, because obviously Roush doesn't change the styling of the dash. They do upgrade the gauges, so you will see in there a Roush logo. Actually, it's on the other one. Boop, there it is. And then again, the custom shift ball from Mandy, aka Madam Director. And then some of the things that I've done differently is, obviously I've installed some harnesses in the car. You can see the roll cage by ABF Fabrication, and then the rear seat delete there by CM Customs, courtesy of Dominic. Just a couple of upgrades to you, if you will, to the car that were not factory during the production build of the Stage 3 when I picked it up in December of 2015. But overall, fantastic. So let's get into, do I think the Stage 3 Mustang, or any Roush Mustang for that matter, is worth the money and something you should look into if you're in the market for a high-performance car? Let's address that. If you are in the market for a high-performance Mustang, and say you have the option to shop around because you have the availability to go after a Shelby Mustang or a Celine or an RTR Mustang or anything else that might be, even a Petty Mustang, for example, as some of you will find some of the Petty Mustangs out there in circulation. Is it worth the price you pay for the RS3? I would tell you, absolutely. Okay, I have owned this car since day one, brand new. I bought it with I test drove it when it had only 11 miles on it. When I bought it, it had 121 miles on it. That's how long they let me test drive the car. I literally drove it for most of the entire day Saturday, all around Charlotte, airport, in and off the interstate, in and around the city, you name it. I was in Gastonia. I mean, the dealership allowed me to test drive the car. And I had a blast. Only dealership I've ever been to where they've allowed that to happen. However, I would say that one of the highlights of owning a Roush Mustang has got to be the Roush ownership experience. Roush goes above and beyond for its clientele and the owners of their vehicles and whatnot, in my opinion. Okay, I've been to several events, some things they call Roush Fan Days, which are hosted out at Concord. Typically when NASCAR brings in the race circuit twice a year for the races up there at Charlotte Motor Speedway, whether it's the Roval or the Tri-Oval. Roush also puts on multiple events throughout the year, or they attend several events like Carlisle or Mustang Week that we just had last weekend, or well, I guess it was a weekend and a half ago now, but Mustang Week and several other events. And then they culminate it in August with something they call Roush Homecoming. I have had the opportunity and the luxury of going to Roush Homecoming 3 times now, and each time it's been a little bit different, which is exciting because you're not getting the same series of events one year after the next year. So if you went in 2021, what you saw in 2021 is not what you will see in 2022, is not what you saw in 2023, so on and so forth. So my first attendance was in 2021, and I was absolutely blown away by some of the events that we did. But then I went up there this year in 2024, and even though it was more of a condensed time frame, we still did some extremely fun events, walkthroughs of the facility, got to see his museum, got to meet professional drivers, got to see Jack Sr., got to, you know, interact with Jack Jr., so on and so forth. So there's a lot of aspects that are not directly associated with the car that you get as a perk of being a Roush owner, and I would call that the Roush ownership experience. What I have noticed, because I also own a Shelby Mustang, as I pointed out, is the Roush ownership experience far and away exceeds the Shelby ownership experience, because quite honestly, there is no ownership experience when it comes to owning a Shelby, at least on the East Coast. Maybe there is out closer to the West Coast, because Shelby America is located in Nevada, but there is not a whole lot going on really out here that makes you want, that provide that same satisfaction. I mean, owning the car is great, and I'm not dinging the Mustang, but there's more to it that I think that goes into it than just owning the car itself. So take that for what it's worth. You may or may not agree with me. It is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinions to it. Oh, we're starting to get the lights. So yes, have I had any issues with the car in the 9 years that I've owned it? Not really. So I have had a couple issues with some of the recalls that you'll see that come from Ford on the Mustangs themselves. That's not something that Roush controls. So that's outside their scope, if you will. But as far as any type of major issues with the car, I've had 0. I did have one issue with some products that I got from the dealership initially that left some swirls on the paint when I had used it. And I kid you not, I made one phone call where I was asking a couple of questions, and I had 0 hassle from the dealership. They took the car back in, they looked at it, they assessed it, and they eventually ended up repainting the entire car. So I can honestly say I've had nothing but positive experiences with this car since the date of purchase. And every other Roush owner I've ever interacted with, I've never heard any negative stories from them either. So I would tell you that if you're looking to get in a Roush Mustang and you have the opportunity to invest in this, stage 2, a stage 1 if you find them, hell, I don't care what version of Roush Mustang you're getting, you are getting a hands down supreme quality build car when you invest your money into a Roush Mustang. Okay. If you want to talk financials real quick, the only downside might be to owning a Roush Mustang is your resale value. And for those of you that know what I'm talking about, The VIN numbers on these Roush Mustangs don't VIN up as a stage 3 with all of its performance attributes, for example. It will VIN up as a standard GT Mustang, whatever it started out at from Ford. This one was a GT, this one was a GT Premium. It had the 50th anniversary package to it before Roush got it, received it, and upgraded it to the stage 3. So when you VIN number the car, that's all it shows up at. It doesn't show up as a supercharged, stage 3 Mustang with the track pack and yada, yada, yada. Shelby, on the other hand, it will change. They change the VIN number. So when you do the VIN check on those cars, it will pull up as a Shelby GT500, a Shelby GT350, or even just a Shelby GT if you go back from like 2006 to 2008, I want to say, is when they had just the Shelby GT Mustang, which was the 5th gen body, the S197, if you will, with the body kit that said Shelby on the vinyl and whatnot. Sharp looking car. I believe even those still VINed as a Shelby. But I know for a fact the 350s and the 500s do. So that's probably the only downside if you're looking at it from that perspective. I never did. That never bothered me. I had no intentions of getting rid of this car when I bought it. So again, it's a win-win for me. I've loved every minute of owning this car. I love every minute of driving the car. I've had a lot of fun doing the modifications to the car, from the drive shaft to the phase 2 tune to the roll cage, rear seat delete, learning how to track the car. I mean, upgrading the intercooler so I had better cooling so the car didn't overheat while I was tracking it. All of that has just been, hands down, some of the best experiences and decisions, in my opinion, that I've made since owning the car. So I'm loving every minute of it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So again, go ahead and like the video if you haven't. It helps me out. It helps the rest of the team out. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that, so that way you can catch any future videos that we put out, whether it's about Rhonda, Lois, Roro, Yakko, or anything else we've got in the inventory that you might see along the way, or other people from around the area, because, I mean, I like to get out and talk with people, and when they've got some rides worth showing off, we're going to show it off. We are a car channel, not necessarily a Mustang channel, although I do have 2 of them. But we're not a Mustang channel. We are a car enthusiast with an emphasis towards muscle cars. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love talking about Rhonda. I could talk about her for days, but that's where we're going to leave it. So, we'll catch you guys later.